Twitter, X, whatever, at Jay Cameron Show. That's how that works. And as we promised, here we go. So, Luncheon in the books. An effort to heal began today. I don't know how successful it will be or not. None of us do. But we will see starting now, because spring football is officially underway with the luncheon that we've gone to now every year that Mike has been here, and I always find those fairly enjoyable, just as a nice starting point, right? Just as a taking off point. Also, I think you get a sense. I'm pretty good at body language stuff, and I like kind of getting a read. You know what's interesting, Tom? Right off the bat, let's bring you in, because I wanted to, we didn't talk about this at all, both there at the luncheon, nor since we got back here a few minutes ago. And that is that I will say that I thought Mike looked very rested and ready to go, and was at ease with his talking points. There was a whole lot of nothing said for much of his exchange with the press. But he did not strike me as uptight or worried about that interaction the way that you might think a guy who just went 2-10 would be. He absolutely seemed pretty low-key about it all.
Yeah, I mostly picked up that as well. I think it was that we got to get through this thing kind of energy. And I don't mean that he wasn't thrilled to see all of us before him. But I just, there's been a lot of talk about the transition. There's been a lot of talk about what needs to change. I think there are times when you can feel it from the podium that a coach is ready to just get to the football part so we can get over the talking part. And I got a little bit of that today. But I also think that it's in the air. What happened last year is in the air in that room as he's talking for half an hour. You can't ignore it. You have to acknowledge it. And he did. And, somewhat in his opening statement, but there were a couple of questions that were directly basically saying, hey, what are you going to do different after it was on fire last year?
Yeah.
And he gave some answers to that end.
Well, I'll go ahead and address that right off the bat for those that haven't checked, the notes from the press conference. I have my notes right here. I jotted them down as we went and listened very closely to everything he had to say. A couple of observations here. He did certainly emphasize player ownership, talked about spending a lot of time individually, meaning Mike spent a lot of time individually talking with players, as he likes to say, meeting players where they are. A lot of time to connect, talked about that. When you couple that with his thoughts on players needing to take the lead, to reach out to others, to take ownership of the team, what he was looking for in terms of quality of the personalities within the transfers that they accepted, not potential, but just who they were as leaders or potential leaders, and taking on ownership. Then I think, I'll do you one better. The through line to all of this was him being freed up to better gauge what the team is or is not, because he's no longer burdened by certain other responsibilities, which he is now giving to Gus Malzahn. I mean, that's what this was. This was Gus is in the way I read this. Gus is in complete control of the offense and is going to, in essence, run it the way he wants to run it. And Mike's going to be completely hands off. And he's going to spend a lot of time being the CEO. And so all of a sudden, I think you could say about today, CEO Mike Norvell was born. I think that's the way I would read this. CEO, head coach, CEO Mike Norvell was born today. And it's because he feels like that is off his plate now of having to deal with that on a daily basis. He trusts Gus Malzahn implicitly. He has worked with him, trusts him, their offense, the root of their offense, the same. Now, aspects of how they implemented things were different. Tempo has gone very, very slow the last couple of years compared to what it was a few years ago, 3 and 4 years ago. So now I think we'll see a much faster offense that Gus is running. Gus sort of echoed that. He wanted to be anywhere but there. But Gus basically said, we're going to play fast. We're going to play fast. I mean, he repeated it more than once. So that if you're looking for a change in the way that this whole operation is worked out and how it looks, I'd suggest that you're going to see Mike hand over the keys to the kingdom to Gus Malzahn, and that the offense is going to be much faster than it was last year and the year before. And you and I mentioned before that last couple of years there's been a whole lot of this. Turn and look to the sidelines. Turn and look to the sidelines. Turn and look to the sidelines. Like, we became pretty damn slow. We were anything but up-tempo.
Yeah, and I think today is another day where you learn some things in retrospect about what Mike thought about last season. Because he can say, I'm looking for kids who are able to do this. I think we're better able to do that. Well, when he's defining what they're better able to do in the moment, he's talking about what was bad last year.
Mm-hmm.
And he was asked about what's, the new players that came in. And he said, well, I was looking for guys who will take the advantage every day. What does that mean? He had kids that mailed it in, he had kids that mailed it in, and they weren't trying to improve each day that they came to whatever it was. Weight training. My guess is it was probably off-season weight training, because that's the time that we're coming through right now. But he clearly is telling you that last year he had a group of kids that were at the center of the program that were not consistent on a day-to-day basis. Again, I didn't detect that at practice, but practice is only but a morsel of what, the whole operation is, between your individual meetings, your training, your time with the trainers, if you need a bump and a bruise taken care of, your nutrition, your classwork, all that stuff. Sounds like Mike is willing to, in retrospect now, speak on the fact that he just didn't have a group that was consistent at all in giving the effort necessary to be good.
The thought that, as far as, I guess another thing that I derived from the comments from Mike was that he feels like he lost the team last year without him saying that. All this talk of connectivity and meeting players where they're at and understanding their needs and trying to figure out the way that, they best utilize their time and, where their head is at, how are they feeling about certain things, their spot, all that stuff. Seems to me like he felt like he did not connect, would make sense, with last year's team, that he lost them somehow. He didn't use those words, but
he said meeting them where they're at.
Well, he did say that a lot.
That always concerns me in general, meeting somebody where they're at. It's not necessarily a negative, but usually it means somebody's behind. Like, isn't that the kind way, if you were a part of the PR firm and we were doing an introductory lecture and you said meeting somebody where they're at, that's the kind way to say they're behind and we need to catch them up. That was the one thing, as he repeated that a couple of times, I thought, oh, is he saying they're behind? Or is he saying that, maybe to your point, that he was behind and he needs to catch up on making sure that he has a better pulse of what's going on so it doesn't turn into a tire fire like it was last year?
Well, I can tell you this, the second part of that, and we talked to assistant coaches, and, over the coming hours and days, you'll get that audio, and we can go. I talked to Tony White. I talked to Tony Tokars. I know you talked to Gus Malzahn, members of the Warchant staff. We all took turns talking to various coaches. I can specifically talk to you about what I learned from Tony White, what I learned from Tony Tokars. I love my annual conversation with Tony Tokars. He's always candid, and I appreciate that. I got the sense, as one would figure, that it was an incredibly frustrating year a season ago, and some things were almost inexplicable. And, Ira has theorized that once things started going south, that they couldn't get it back on the rails, and the kids checked out and all. Well, I think that's abundantly clear, not only by the way they played, but then also listening to the coaches today, the ones that were on staff last year who talked about last year, they certainly will admit, and that includes the head coach, that getting through to those guys after a certain point seemed to be impossible.
It's like there's a statute of limitations passes, and so you get them on the record admitting to what happened last year indirectly. And that's what today was. I mean, look, it's still, I think that's part of the energy that Mike had of, I just need to get through this half an hour. I need to get through my opening statement. I'll answer as many questions as I can, because the only way to get past 2 and 10 is to get out there on the field and start building towards whatever this is going to be.
I think the quote, one of the quotes here, Yeah, I mean, obviously they were looking for more experienced players that have had success, but also suffered highs and lows together and who are hungry, all of those things. And he was talking about needing that edge, but he also talked about the extreme changes that they made based on the extreme results from last season. Okay, well, the extreme result is 2-10, obviously. What are the extreme changes? Well, I think he's referencing coaches being fired and new coaches being hired. As far as the way it's going to look in practice, we'll have no idea because as we speculated 2 weeks ago, I started to get a sense that perhaps this is where we were headed. You and I had an open discussion on the air about the likelihood that we were going to be squeezed out of practice.
That tour of duty wasn't open to us. That is a low leverage thing to let folks into, and if you're going to close that is not a good sign.
Well, and we weren't getting answers back on a schedule and all of those sorts of things. So it wasn't surprising to find out that they've changed the policy for spring football. And, a whole lot of suck it to the media is what that is. And
get a scrimmage.
So, you'll get requested players that you can talk to after practices. We have those dates. We'll get the head coach, the days in which, he's going to speak. That's all laid out. If you're wondering at home, guys, you'll hear from Mike Norvell on the 19th. You'll hear from him on the 20th. You'll hear from him on the 22nd, the 25th, 27th, 29th. Then we're into April. And I can go through those dates if you'd like. Look, I don't care. I'm able to do my job either way. I don't think it's a good look from a coach that has many times over stated that he thought it was important that their hard work be documented, that their players' efforts and climb, if you will, be documented. They felt good about the way they coach, the way they practice, player buy-in, and where the program is headed. If after going 2-10, you suddenly do not believe that, one would raise an eyebrow to that. Might there be some other reasons? I think things have changed. The landscape of college football has changed, and who's watching? I mean, look, we're seeing it all over the country. Spring games are going away.
Right.
There is a fear that people are preying on video and practice reports to try to leverage. Agents use it as leverage.
And then other programs will tamper to go grab other kids before they're in the portal.
So I'm not blind to the fact that there are things that have changed and maybe they're wrestling with those things. It's just the timing looks bad. There's no way around that. You go from standing at the dais championing the need to showcase your players and their hard work and the program's, well, I think in this case we'd say rise and fall, to radically altering what that looks like in terms of press availability and watching these practices. I've done it for all kinds. I've been here when we could go to practice and see it all. I remember watching scrimmages when Bobby Bowden was here and also being kicked out of those things, not specifically me, but just the media.
You weren't thrown out?
No. I was called Judas at one point. But I do remember, and I remember Jimbo's policies, and obviously we know what Willie's were and Mike's. Either way, I'm able to do my job. I try to, procure as many sources as possible and get information as best you can. You get things right, you get things wrong, and everything in between. I don't really care. It's also only 15 practices and 11 of which really matter at all, maybe 10. So the spring is the spring. We'll see what alters in the fall. I don't know if this is going to carry over to the fall.
They don't either.
It seems to me, Tom, that you would do this in reverse if you were worried about this sort of thing, that you would say, yeah, sure, you can watch basic install of spring and then we're going to shut you out of fall. That would seem to me what you would do, but that's not what they're doing here. I don't know. I could project to suggest that if they're doing this now, there's little to no chance we have access in the fall.
Yeah, the gripe I've got, and again, it's like, media going out and saying that there's not enough hot food in the lunch line.
Right. It's
but
I'm not mad.
When you say that, for tour of duty, we're going to give you a Josh Storm's availability, which means in essence, no tour of duty. You're not getting into the building. Okay. I'm sure that you would know the policy at that point. You might as well just lay it out there at that point. Here you go. Here's your statement. Here's your schedule. And we'll do interviews at these times, and we'll have all those interviews for you. And actually, I think this would be birthing or the rebirth, the Phoenix Rising of Coach Cameron Translates. I think we got some opportunities now. Since practice is closed, I think we should really have to delve into the nuance of what Mike is saying and is not saying and play a little bit of Coach Cameron Translates if you're up for that.
I am up for it, and I miss it. I always had fun with this. I think I'm actually really good at that. I can parse through jibber jabber BS better than most, and coaches traffic in BS on the regular. So yeah, let's get it on. Let's welcome it back. We'll have a whole segment every day of Jeff Cameron Show Translates. We may need to add some theme music.
Yeah, my whole thing is you might as well just let us know before spring break, to set up content plans. But that's mechanical stuff for us on this side of the operation, on this side of covering the teams. We'll have what we need. And it'll be interesting to hear what happens in practice without seeing it with our eyes. We'll hear. We'll know.
Well, I think it's only fair to our listeners and viewers to tell you what the head coach had to say about this specific change. Spring practice, there was a release for those that haven't seen it from FSU that read spring practices will be closed to the media with the exception of one scrimmage. More information regarding that scrimmage will be provided in the coming weeks. Below is a statement from head coach Mike Norvell on the decision, and it reads as follows. As I evaluated every aspect of our program this offseason, I came to the decision that the majority of this year's spring practices will not be open to the media. Here, I'll engage in a little translation right off the bat, Tom. When he says, I came to the decision that the majority of this year's spring practices will not be open to the media, he means all of the practices will be closed to the media, save for one scrimmage. There you go. In my first 5 seasons here, we provided unmatched access to members of the media to observe practices during the spring. Now, you guys have known how open and giving I've been. Translation there. Preseason camp and game weeks. I appreciate and respect the media's role. Get ready to be kicked in the balls if you're a member of the media. Telling the stories of the people in our program and keeping our fans informed. In a day and age where so many people have access to our players, I want to create an atmosphere free of outside perspectives during our time of preparation and development. Unfortunately, by granting you all unprecedented access, the videos that were often shown or the reports of players' successes in practice would leak to agents. These are unscrupulous bastards whom I hate. And I was constantly having to spend time talking to them after a good practice for their player, in which they then contacted me having seen a video of a kid who has no idea of the offense we're running but happened to make a spectacular catch. That video then got posted, and I was asked for $100,000 more than we would ever be willing to give to said player who has no chance to start for us for 2 more seasons. Now, that was an elaborate translation, Tom, but I think that's fair, right? You think that's pretty close to what he was getting at right there?
I suppose. I just wonder if that means that do NFL scouts provide outside perspective?
The availability of our program in terms of post-practice media opportunities, individual requests for players, coaches, and staff members will remain the same. After you've not seen practice, you're going to need me to tell you what happened. I will do so. There you go. That's your translation with that. This is not a suggestion that I think last season's record had anything to do with the media members observing our practices, especially after we won 19 games in a row in 2022 and 2023 with media at practice. Lest you think I'm not aware of how this looks and how it certainly appears after going 2-10, I have radically altered my policy on media availability. Well, after winning 19 straight games, I certainly had no problem with you all being here. I get it. This looks terrible, and I want you to know I'm aware of how bad it looks.
Thank you guys for contributing to the 21-10 run we were on out of a span of that many games.
There it is.
21-10. We should have a media thing that says 21-10.
However, this is the best decision for our program at this time. Well, I think that's the case. I don't know that to be the case. The proof will be in the pudding whether we win or lose games, but for now, that's how I'm going to choose to end this release. So this is, he knows that oh, really? The media was a terrible distraction while you were winning 19 games in a row, huh? No, right. But 2-10, it's all right, man. It will be interesting to see what happens in the fall. I'll just say that. I don't really care if we see spring or not, and they are doing basic install. So, yeah, they're installing. They're working on really the basics of this offense and this defense. I don't know what else to say to that other than I'm not surprised. We first guessed it, and now it's happened.
Yeah, it was made official just before 11 o'clock this morning to put that date and time together.
Well, the part about him being able, and I want to get back to this and we got to go to break, the part about him being able to connect and kind of be free of some of the other burdens, you heard both coaches, one a former head coach, now an OC, and one who was responsible for the offense but was also the head coach, now being more of a CEO head coach. So what you got from Gus Malzahn was a guy saying, I don't know, that head coaching thing, I was tired of it. I didn't like overseeing everything. I'm excited to be back in my niche, calling plays, installing offense, teaching kids to run this system. I'm excited about it. And then the other one, the head coach, saying, I'm kind of relieved to hand over this offense to a guy I trust implicitly, and it will allow me to have the freedom to do things that I didn't do a year ago and I regret not having been able to do. I think that's what that is. That's what you heard today from those two individuals. It's Jeff Cameron Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
When you need the plumber quick, how long is an acceptable time to wait?
Hey guys, we really need you over here. My toddler just flushed a whole bunch of toys down the toilet, and everything, and I mean everything, is backing up.
2 hours?
Hey guys, just checking in. The water has reached the hallway now, and it's getting pretty deep. Can you get here anytime soon?
4 hours?
Hey guys, can you please hurry? Now my wiener dog is doing the backstroke over here, and they're not known to be strong swimmers. Hey honey, grab his life jacket.
8 hours?
Oh, so now you're here.
At M&L Plumbing, you'll never have to wait long for quality, dependable service right when you need it. Our qualified technicians aim to achieve 100% customer satisfaction. And now M&L Plumbing can also be your go-to for all septic tank pump-out services. So the next time you need plumbing work or repairs, think of the name M&L Plumbing. Your local plumbing experts, commercial or residential. Give us a call, 850-575-9393, or online at mnlplumbing.com. M&L Plumbing, for all of your plumbing needs.
On the front lines, fighting the insanity of the woke, it's Matt and Brett Oster with America in View.
Matt, Florida has become the world leader for freedom, and I love being in the studio with you every week where we are reinforcing the conservative movement with truth, the Constitution, and a little redneck common sense. We're waking the woke.
Free for swimming pools and spas.
I know what you're thinking right now. Where can I find a place to get my car fixed and also check out some awesome new hot tubs and spas while I wait? Well, you're in luck. Because when you bring your car or truck in to get serviced at Tallahassee Car Care, it's under the same roof as Swain Pools and Spas for tires, brakes, batteries, tune-ups, oil changes, and all the service you need to get back on the road. Choose the certified technicians at Tallahassee Car Care. Drop by our shop on Tharp Street or visit online at TallahasseeCarCare.com.
Everybody, this is Shannon Young with Cross Country Mortgage. Been in the industry now for 22 years. I just made the move over to the nation's largest retail lender, Cross Country Mortgage, here to serve you in 7 states, including Florida, Georgia, Alabama, the Carolinas, Tennessee, and the state of Texas. Here to offer better service, better rates, and if you were thinking about buying or if you've been on the fence and been waiting to call me, now is the time. You can still find me at loansforknowles.com. That is, again, loansforknowles.com. I've helped thousands of fellow Knowles get into their dream home, and I can't wait to help you get into yours. Give me a call today. I'm at 954-369-6171, or go to loansforknowles.com. Again, that's 954-369-6171, and that's loansforknowles.com.
Equal Housing NMLS 373031.
Science-backed, technology-tracked, and coach-led. Hey, Jeff Cameron here. You've heard me rave about the benefits of Orange Theory Fitness and the proven track record of science-backed interval training. Well, now Orange Theory Fitness has done it again, adding more ways for you to improve your health and look your best. In addition to the always great standard workouts, OTF has added Tread 50 and Strength 50. For those in the mood to just lift for an afternoon or attack those cardio goals for the day. Take the guesswork out of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Let's not waste any more time. We get to bring in my man. It is Monday, after all. Rashfell, Warchant.com, the website. Ira joins us every Monday. Today is no different. How are you, good sir?
I'm great, Jeff. How are you doing?
I'm good, buddy. No real big surprises today. What stood out to you from the luncheon?
Yeah, I mean, we all, spread it out, spread out and talk to different coaches. So I didn't get to hear all the interviews yet, but from Mike Norvell, I thought overall, I caught a little bit of what you said last hour. I did think he was pretty energized. I felt like, he's clearly turned the page on what we saw from him last season and the toll it took on him. So it's good to kind of see him with a fresh perspective. And then, I talked to a couple of the assistant coaches on offense. Well, I talked to actually Tim Harris Jr., the new receiver passing game coordinator, talked a lot about the receiving core. And then on defense, I talked to Patrick Surtain, the cornerbacks coach. So that's mostly who I talked to today. But like you said, all those videos are up on our site, and I'll be watching the rest of them throughout the day.
So, I think the role of receiver in this offense, since you alluded to it, is very interesting. I think that Gus has had that used against him in the past in terms of recruiting big-time wide receivers, and yet he's been able to secure some. I guess your thoughts on what you learned about receiver in this offense and the role that they play. I mean, I think we know what a traditional receiver does, but obviously this is it's an interesting offense to recruit receiver too.
Well, it's funny. I asked him about, the need for these guys to be good blockers and how, he couldn't speak to it, but I could, that was not a strength of the receiving core. and so, but he said, listen, man, he goes, some people in my position as a receivers coach wouldn't even want to talk about that publicly because you don't want other schools to use it against you as, they're going to turn you into a blocker. And he's like, listen, man, if you want to play in the NFL, you have to do that. And if you want to play in good offenses, you have to do that. And we're very clear with our receivers that if you want to get on the field a lot, you want to be, you got to prove you can do that. You appreciate that physicality of the position. And if you do, well, now we've got you out on running plays. And then when we go tempo, you're already out there as a receiver. So it's better for you if you would embrace that. So he said he's expecting those guys to do that. He really had really high praise for Deuce Robinson and Squirrel White, the big transfers that came in this offseason. He said Deuce from day one, like Deuce Robinson, when he was at Southern Cal, he said Deuce came in and said, listen, I was the number 3 receiver at Southern Cal. I want to be the number 1 receiver of Florida State. And so he's handled himself in that matter, attacking every workout, attacking every film session. And he said, he and Squirrel White have been that kind of mature veteran presences. And now you've got all these young receivers from all the way from an early enrollee like Javon Boggs to the guys who were here last year, the Luane McCoy and Elijah Moore and all those guys. And they're being sponges learning from those guys. So he was real excited about that group. And I think, man, it's a position that was so bad last year but it could look a whole lot different this spring.
I sure hope so. As far as big picture stuff, what did you take away from Mike's availability? I said at the start of this hour that one of the ways I would characterize it was that this felt like the beginning of CEO coach Mike Norvell. And I don't know if people take that as a negative. I believe that the modern coaches have so much on their plate that they almost have to be CEO coaches, or that inevitably they will be at some point when the benefit of youth begins to wane. They just have so many different things they have to care about now. So I am kind of curious your thoughts. Did you read that the same way?
I mean, I think it's a lot of different things, man. I think it's, the landscape has changed. I think, when he formed that philosophy at Memphis, when he was his first time as a head coach, I think that media landscape was very different than the media landscape at Florida State. And I can tell you from behind the scenes over the last few years, I'm sure you've heard a lot of this too. There were a lot of people on the staff the last 5 years who were not real fired up about it. A lot of position coaches and even coordinators who didn't love the fact that the media was at every practice, maybe documenting everything. And so Mike Norvell has always been fighting that because he saw the positive to it being that, we would have insight into the players and their development and all of the positive things for us being out there. But I think it's just, they kept growing the concerns. And then as you change it to this era with the NIL and every player's got an agent and poaching that's going on and tampering, it just felt like, I think for him, the benefits were starting to get really outweighed by the negatives. And I'll give him credit. He said, he didn't really want to do this, but he did say he thought about doing it going into last year. He said he thought about doing it after 2023, even though that season had gone so well, they were starting to have a lot of these problems because of NIL and agents and all that. And so, he decided to stick with it. And then I think he felt like, it just got to be too much. So he said he's going to consider it in the future. Me personally, and I heard you mention a little bit about it too. We've seen it done every different way possible.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do our jobs. We'll figure it out. We'll talk to people. We'll know what's going on. To me, it's not the end of the world. I kind of figured it would come at some point, and here we are.
Funny, people misconstrue what I just said, the previous segment. I'm looking in the chat as we're talking, Ira, and they're seeing this as a complaint. No, I don't think it's, hey, listen, more free time for me to not be out there watching special teams, which Lord knows they spend forever and a day on. That's fine with me. I'm saying it's not a good look. And I think the timing of it still looks poor. Now he may not have been able to help the timing of it, especially if he was thinking about it before the campaign. But when you come fresh off a 2-10 season and you implement this change, which is a radical shift, people are going to say, Ira, that it certainly looks dubious.
Yeah, but I think it's so how do you handle that? Do you say, well, I'm not going to do what I think is in the best interest of my team because it might look bad, or do I have to do it to the best interest of my team? And I think that's where, if you're Mike Norvell, man, coming off of 13-0 and Alabama making a run at you and Florida State, doing whatever they can do to keep you, and think about, those last two seasons, you had gone 23-4, you're on top of the world and you've had nothing but success your whole life. And then you go through that season, I think start questioning everything you do.
Sure. Yeah.
Reevaluating everything you do. And if there's anything that you feel like might be part of the problem, you've got to figure out a way to make that not be part of the problem anymore. So yeah, I know, I'm sure look, by the statement, you could tell he was concerned about the optics.
Yes. He knew it didn't look good.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean you should roll with it just because
sure.
Don't look bad.
No, absolutely. And ultimately, all that will matter in the way that Mike Norvell is judged is whether or not they win games.
100%.
So it doesn't matter at all if somebody thinks it looks bad or if I think it does or doesn't. It doesn't make any difference because he's just got to win games. And if he does, then everybody will be like, oh, well, must have been the right decision. If he doesn't, they'll say, well, see, it wasn't the media after all. I mean, I don't think he thinks it was either. That's why he specifically laid that out in his statement, which, that to his credit, he did recognize the optics.
Yeah, and I think the people that, listen, the people that want to take pot shots at him or Florida State on social media or even if media want to take shots at him, that's all fine. That's all well and good. I don't think he believes it has a tangible impact on the record. I think it's just it's more fires you have to put out every single
time consuming.
Right. And so for the benefit, that's really getting kind of diminished the way things are going. So yeah, from that standpoint, I don't think he believes it's the difference between 2-10 or 10-2 or anything in between. I just think, man, we have so much else to deal with, and we are a 2-10 football team right now. Let me eliminate as many distractions as I can.
Yeah, and to be clear, so that people can understand where I'm coming from on this, if I were Mike Norvell, I wouldn't care one iota what the media thought of me. I'm trying to keep my job. Right. I went 2-10. If I go sub 6-6 this year, they're all going to universally ask that I be fired, meaning the power boosters and Florida State fans and alumni everywhere. His sole purpose in life right now isn't to worry about anything other than doing something much better than what we saw a year ago. I am also curious. Were you able to glean anything? Well, I don't know if you've seen it. I'm sorry, I put you in a bad position. Tony White, I really enjoyed my conversation with Tony White. That's an affable guy and a no-nonsense guy. That's going to be a fun guy to watch coach this defense.
Yeah, he is. And I talked to him a little bit just talking. I didn't get him on camera, but I also talked to, and I agree with you 100%. You could see the personality and also, we were talking about the Syracuse games when he was the defensive coordinator there, and the game where Jordan Travis tiptoed the line and extended that drive, and he's still complaining about maybe a holding call that maybe should have been called. It was a fun conversation, but also I also enjoyed talking to the other coaches about him. I was talking to Patrick Surtain, who this is their first chance getting to work together, and he said Tony White's one of those people, when you talk to him, you can almost see the thought processes in his head, like all the things he's thinking of and all the different ways he can attack an offense. And man, my favorite part of that, I'll just share this with you real quick. People can watch the whole video. But he said he was talking about how he's excited to see the DBs play in this system where they're going to get to play more zone. They'll get to be facing the quarterback more often. They can make plays on the ball, things like that. And I said, well, when you were a player, did you mind playing man, or did you prefer playing zone? And he said, well, when I was playing, he goes, I was a little different. He goes, when I was playing, I could play press man and still get interceptions. I just started. I was like, yeah, good point. Let's not compare your thoughts to these other guys.
Yeah. Brother, I will see you in studio tomorrow. Looking forward to it as we get back with headlines, and I'll talk to you then. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Jeff. See you.
Yeah, take care. That's Irish Chaffel, Warchant.com. Joins us every Monday. I always appreciate that. Yeah, I just to clarify, I'm telling you the way it looks. I don't really care about the policy. I've gone many years without having to be at practice and rather enjoyed it. There were other years where we had full access. I enjoyed that too. There are benefits and negatives to both. Mike has a lot to worry about. I just thought on the heels of 2-10, after you've championed how much you want the press to be there to document the growth of players' success and achievement and all the things that they're trying to do, that it would be a bad look. I think he's aware of that too. That's why he specifically addresses it in the statement. I agree with Ira that I don't think Mike thinks that the media caused any of their problems from a year ago. I also think it's fair to point out that the landscape has changed to a place where it's now more time consuming because of what happens with agents calling after good practices for their players and the like, saying, hey, so-and-so had a big day. We're hearing from a lot of other schools now, and you wouldn't want to get bogged down with that. So that's fine.
My whole thing is from the JCS PR firm perspective. You could have burned this news during spring break. You could have burned it through any number of Fridays. Probably would be better than releasing a statement 45 minutes before he goes to the dais on the day that a lot more eyeballs are going to be on the program. I don't know. I would have let that be known earlier. So that way that discussion
get out in front of it a little bit early. But I wonder if he wasn't, I wonder if he wasn't wrestling with it.
He might have been debating. That could be true.
Yeah, I think he might have been wrestling with it because I think he recognizes that, there is going to be that school of thought that people are going to go, now all of a sudden you don't believe in the things that you really profess to believe in before. And he would say, no, it's not that. But then you get into this tit for tat.
Yeah. But you do get into the modern era of the game. And if you're saying to yourself, I need any superfluous task to be cut off of everyone's ledger.
Sure.
And if you're fielding phone calls or in-person meetings or, heaven forbid, it's the player himself comes up to you and says, what gives? All I'm hearing is all this good stuff about me. Why don't I get the ball? And you're like, well, I was supposed to have 2 meetings in the last 2 hours. And instead I've been on with a handler.
Right.
I've been on with our guy whose ears to the ground saying, I think one of your kids might be going in the portal. You might want to check on him. I've just lost 2 hours of my day. I don't want to lose that 2 hours anymore 3 times a week. Like, yeah, I get that. Makes sense.
Well, it will be a popular, I think, piece of news because you hear people comment on it on a regular basis. It really doesn't have anything to do with anything in terms of whether or not they're successful on the field or off the field. So, again, the only thing that's going to determine the way that fans, and for that matter, the way that the team is covered, the only thing that's going to determine that is wins and losses. So it really won't matter until we get into the fall. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Your local news now.
4 women have been arrested and charged in the brutal beating of a man outside of Pockett's Pool and Pub on Sharer Road early Sunday morning. Officers were posted outside of the bar monitoring the crowd around 2:08 a.m. when a fight broke out. Officers saw 2 women, Kiera Parrish and Carnisha Smith, beating the man with a baseball bat. Another woman, Sierra Parrish, stabbed the man multiple times with a 4th woman, Kendra Willis, punched him. TBD did not disclose the man's condition. Police officers were able to detain and arrest all 4 women. Sierra Parrish is being held without bond as of Sunday night. Kiera Parrish, Carnisha Smith, and Kendra Willis all were being held on a $10,000 bond and posted bail Sunday evening. While Kendra Willis was being held on a $500 bond, she posted bail Sunday morning. This is Rachel Anay with Real Talk 93.3 Local News Update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Bright sunshine expected this afternoon with a high of 67. Winds out of the northwest, 10 to 20 miles per hour. Tonight, lows around 43. Tomorrow, high of 77. Highs level off around 78 Wednesday under clear skies. 68 Thursday, slight chance of rain showers. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Currently 63.
Roofing and construction services. T-Construction.com. We conquer all peaks. We fix those darn leaks. Call 850-766-134. T-Spark Enterprises. Roofing and construction services. T-Spark. T-Spark.com.
CCC 1331204.
There is. Haven't seen this guy since, what was it? Oh, shoot. U2 at the Sphere in Las Vegas, baby.
Hey, how about that, man? Wasn't that fun?
Good show. Good show. Everything about it. Nearly perfect. Nearly perfect.
I had everything I could possibly want.
I wanted one thing, couldn't find it, and I looked everywhere. No Cubans.
What do you mean?
No Cubans.
There was Cubans.
No, I didn't see any Cubans.
Dude, I'm sure there was Cubans there. I mean,
No. I walked around. There was a moment right before the show. I thought, got to find some Cubans. Nothing.
Dude, there's Cubans. There was Cubans. I'm sure there was Cubans.
In Las Vegas?
In Las Vegas.
No Cubans in Vegas.
There's Cubans in Vegas, man.
Eddie, there were no Cubans.
Jeff.
The sandwich. There were no Cuban sandwiches. You're Cuban. Of course I know there were Cubans there.
Oh, the sandwich. Yeah, no, there probably wasn't many there in Vegas.
No Cubans.
No, not yet.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
By the way, just if I misread something today, like as in I'm reading something in a report or whatever we have here, I got through the release, but I had to concentrate hard, Tom. I'm worried. Contacts are going south on me. Everything's a little blurry. It's a little blurry.
It's time for a checkup?
Probably. A little blurry. It gets and it's been that way all day. Probably just a smudge on my contact. I can't shake it. But I've looked like a fool a couple of times trying to read something. I was in the store earlier today, like things up to my face.
I don't know. It could be glaucoma.
That's my sense of humor, but brother, come on now.
You never know what actually does the trick. Usually I say things that are like worse and humorous, and you laugh and you say, "Oh, that's funny." I didn't mean to strike a note there. My bad.
No, I just really
Just
hope I
means
don't
you
have
need more weed,
glaucoma.
that's all.
Oh my goodness gracious! Congrats to Rory McIlroy. You're Victor, buddy. It's a short segment, so I can't get into football. I'll save football for the next hour. But hey, so listen, didn't you win a bunch of money?
I did. I'm going to imbue him with a title a little bit later in the show, but I'm very thankful for Rory. This is the most happy I've been with Rory McIlroy in probably 10 years, 12 years. So thank you, Rory. It's a good day. Today's a good day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, right?
That's right.
Worked out well. I would say that I did not win money on Rory. I did, however, win on my little mini team that I gave out last week. I had
nice.
Lowry and Rye and Straka all on my little team there. So we did quite well. The big miss was Ludwig.
Yeah. Interesting. Sometimes guys go in weird little ruts in March, and then they play at Augusta like nothing ever happened, and they shoot 67 on the first.
Oh,
sure.
Yeah.
But typically, you'd like to see a guy on form at Sawgrass because that's got everybody's attention. You know they're trying to play Sawgrass. There are times when they're playing a different course.
We've learned that.
With an eye towards Augusta or an eye towards Sawgrass. That's why I think a lot of times now that Arnold Palmer is backing up to the players, you don't get a good indication of who's going to play well for the players because they're trying to gear up to win something.
I always
better
found that
than Palmer.
incredible. I don't know how many. I mean, I think your hardcore golfers know that from reading or listening to interviews. I don't know that everybody recognize. I didn't know this until I did that SiriusXM show for all those years on PGA Tour Channel with Trey. We had guests who would talk about it, but Trey brought it up too. He said basically that there are some tournaments that guys will just work on shot shaping, and they don't really care whether or not they score. This is like, well, I need to really work on this shot. The winds here in Houston are very similar to what we're going to have next month at such and such, and I need to work on this shot. You're like, well, yeah, but you need a draw here because we're trying to birdie this hole. Oh, no, I'm not worried about this. I can still birdie this hole, by the way. I just need to hit this shape. I'm like, that's amazing to me. That's just another illustration of how good these guys are. I'm going to play this hole the wrong way intentionally. Probably still par, maybe even birdie, but I just need to work on some shots.
For the greater good.
For the greater good. For the tournament 3 weeks from now that I care about much more than this one.
Yeah.
Here comes a cut 7, although this really requires an 8 to draw. Yeah, it's amazing.
That presupposes that player has status and/or exemptions. You know, that would be the thing. If you're a guy who's on the cut line of life at the PGA Tour, you can't be worried about that. I got to take you know what? I love the Byron Nelson with all my heart.
I care deeply about the Lipton Open.
And I love that many of my compatriots playing the Byron Nelson are not trying to win the Byron Nelson. I love that because I'm trying very hard to win the Byron Nelson this weekend. So yes, Brooks or Shane or whoever, you work on that cut shot. I'm going to try and win the Byron Nelson.
I'm trying to win this tournament here. I need to make the cut at the Byron Nelson this week here, guys. On that front, we are at the time of year where, dudes' lives are changed and all of that. And it is the coolest thing in the world to watch guys change their fortune, both on the tour and in their bank accounts, where, it is truly the meritocracy, right? A couple of those guys, including David Effin Walker, whom nobody's ever heard of, get a last second, hey, so-and-so's pulling out of the tourney, you're in. Nice top 10, David. Your career earnings are $112,000. You just made $587,000 this afternoon. Good on you, young man. That kind of stuff is cool. You can see like a quiver in their you can hear the quiver in their voice when they're talking about like, I don't have to go back and work at Ace. Thank God I hated that job. Yes, the ball bearings are over there. God, I should have flushed that 6-iron. What was I doing? Yes, sir. Motor oil. Yeah, that's a toughie.
That word, speaking of the word ace, I was millimeters away from being able to give you a story and regale the people with a story of an ace.
But alas.
Yesterday. But alas. What do you know? It's like a 6-leg parlay. Oh, man, that 6-leg kill me. I hit 5 of them.
I did.
Oh, really?
Over the weekend. NBA had 5 of the 6 hit. Missed the other by an assist. 1 assist.
First time in history.
Nobody's ever lost a parlay that way, I tell you. Nobody ever. If life's been crazy for you lately and you need to unwind, Cornbread Hemp's CBD gummies. If you're looking for a natural way to relieve aches and discomfort, the CBD gummies from Cornbread Hemp are formulated to work with your body, not against it. All natural, as I point out over and over and over again. Helps you go to sleep at night if you're struggling with that too. I've noticed that as well. If you've tried everything under the sun for your peace of mind, it sounds like it's time for you to try Cornbread Hemp CBD gummies. Right now, Jeff Cameron Show listeners can save 30% on their first order. Just head to cornbreadhemp.com/warchant. Use code warchant at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/warchant. Use code warchant. Yeah, there you go. Get that anxiety down.
For the annual St. Patty's Day Block Party at the Brass Tap in Midtown, March 15th, 16th, and 17th. That's right, 3 full days to enjoy lucky libations like green beer, perfectly poured Guinness, Irish whiskey specials, and more. While you'll dance your best jig to live music all day each day. And there's no cover. It's the 11th annual biggest and baddest St. Patty's Day Party at the Brass Tap in Midtown, March 15th, 16th, and 17th. For more details, visit their Instagram and Facebook page, Luncheon.
There's nothing like relaxing in a hot tub after a long day. But if you don't have one, you're truly missing out. Hot tubs and spas have tremendous health benefits, besides just helping you relax. Like improving your sleep, they help with pain relief. They help to better your cardiovascular health, and so much more. And this season is the perfect season to finally buy what you've been wishing for. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patio, and Spas has the hot tubs you need for the price you want. Come shop our huge 12,000 square foot showroom and save today. There's over 50 hot tubs in stock right now, so you won't have to wait weeks on end for that delivery to finally come to town. If you're ready to relax, we're here to show you how. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patios, and Spas. Come visit our huge showroom at 2473 Greer Road with over 50 hot tubs to choose from. You'll be glad you did.
What makes Paul's Termite and Pest Control the best in North Florida?
It's our core values, of course, and they happen to spell Paul's.
P, protecting you and your pets from pests and your property from termites.
A, accept personal responsibility. At Paul's, we realize it's up to us to get things right and strive to do more than's expected.
U, uphold company values. Those values include treating others with respect and understanding we represent Paul's Pest Control on and off the clock.
L, look the part. As representatives of this great company, we will always make sure that our image matches the character of Paul's.
S, support the team. Every job we do is a total team effort to create a supportive workplace.
P, protecting you, your pets, and your property. A, accept personal responsibility. U, uphold company values. L, look the part. S, support the team. Paul's core values. They make us the best.
For the elimination of termites and other pests.
And a greener lawn, too.
Call Paul's. We'll get them all.
Ain't nothing but a G-Pod, baby.
I am 99% sure that is not how the lyrics go.
Well, you like remixes, right?
Of course.
Well, think of this as a Grassroots Coffee remix per se, because Grassroots Coffee is now in the single-serve coffee pod game.
Dude, those single-serve coffee pods and cups are weak sauce.
Not Grassroots Coffee G-Pods. They have more coffee in them than regular single-serve pods and cups.
Seriously?
And not only do they have more coffee, they have a built-in filter for better brewing. They fit in most Keurig machines, and they are fully compostable.
It's still the small batch, slow roasted coffee you love, so go to grassrootscoffee.com and get your box of G-Pods today.
Baby.
See? Remix.
Well, actually, that's more of an homage.
Grassroots Coffee, locally owned, locally roasted, and made for everyone, loved everywhere.
Grassroots Coffee G-Pods. So very good.
From the championship stage to coaching change and everything in between, Warchant.com remains your home for the best FSU football coverage in the business. Brutally honest columns and features, market-leading multimedia presence across video and podcast, the largest FSU fan community with a staff that combines for over 100 years of experience covering the Noles. When change comes, Warchant.com is your home for analysis from every angle. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Sign up today.
WVFT Greater Tallahassee. This is Real Talk 93.3. More of the Jeff Cameron Show is coming up next. Your sports flash update on Real Talk 93.3 in Tallahassee.
PGA Tour Monday morning, Rory McIlroy defeated J.J. Spaun in a 3-hole aggregate playoff, and he wins the Players' Championship at TPC Sawgrass. Both golfers finished at 12 under par. There was a rain-delayed mid-round on Sunday, forcing the Monday playoff. McIlroy wins the Players for the second time in his career. College baseball, Florida State hosting Mercer Tuesday in Tallahassee. The Noles swept Boston College over the weekend, improving to 18-1. They are now ranked 5th. While Florida lost all 3 games over the weekend to Tennessee, dropping to 16-5. They'll face Jacksonville Tuesday and Florida A&M on Wednesday. Florida Gators basketball, a top seed in the West region for the NCAA tournament. Friday in Raleigh, North Carolina, the Gators will open up against Norfolk State. Florida beat Tennessee in the SEC title game Sunday. Bundle auto and home, renters, or condo and save with Progressive. I'm Tony Desiri, Real Talk 93.3.
Mornings can start feeling the same. Wake up, brush teeth, go to work. But with breakfast from one...
Stop fighting the algorithm. You know you can't get enough Florida State filling your feed. Well, there's no better way to keep up with FSU on YouTube than with members-only level Warchant. It's going to get you bigger, faster, and stronger. How? Bigger.
It's hour number 2.
Join now for exclusive access to a bonus segment of the legendary Seminole headlines.
Faster.
Get debut access days in advance of the public release of the latest episode of X's and O's with Dominic Robinson, a look at the All-22 film.
Stronger.
Utilize the Member Milestone Chat, a new feature which allows your comment to be highlighted in live chats during Warchant.com shows for maximum visibility. All of this in addition to members-only flair like badges, emojis, and polls to drive the conversation of the home of the ultimate Seminole sports source on YouTube. Give it a try. Cancel it anytime. No commitments, no phone calls, no emails. Just a few clicks within your YouTube account. Warchant.com members only YouTube. The next level in FSU coverage on YouTube.
Now my back is killing me again.
Poor Hank. I'm really sorry about your back pain.
You have any idea how hard it is to pull an alligator out of his heat hole when it's colder than the polar bear's toenails outside? Not to mention the added weight of the gold chain I bought Hank last year for his birthday.
Well, it's time to get you back in to see the doctors at Finn Chiropractic. You can book your appointment online, so there's no waiting in the cold.
You're right again. Look out, Dr. Finn. I'm coming in hot.
At Finn Chiropractic, they'll get to the root of your pain and deliver the solutions. Book your appointment online at finchiro.com, and you'll even get an online discount. Visit finchiro.com today and find your path to a pain-free tomorrow.
Park Enterprises, roofing and construction services. T-Spark.com. We conquer all peaks. We fix those darn leaks. Call 850-766-134. T-Spark Enterprises, roofing and construction services. T-Spark. T-Spark.com.
CCC 1331204.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Broadcasting live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That's Tom. On Twitter, it's at Jay Cameron Show, and away we go. We had the luncheon today. Tom and I had to record hour number 1 for those that missed that. Had to do that this morning, so we had the buffer hour to make our way over to the luncheon at the Moore Athletic Center. Talked a lot about it last hour. In the interest of recapping on the day, let's get to, I will say that I'm excited spring football is underway. It will be interesting to see what we're able to glean from it. I do stand by sort of this idea that I think CEO Mike Norvell was born today in a weird way. And nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think head coaches have to wear so many hats now. I said a few years ago that I had changed my stance on what I wanted my head coach to be, that they have to play so many different roles now, including fundraiser and dealing with agents. And I mean, just all the stuff, you know, it's excessive. I like this idea of feeling like he's unburdened a little bit. Now, whether or not it'll succeed is a bigger question. I don't know the answer to that. We'll see. Everybody's got an opinion. But I think it's almost impossible with FSU to know. I echo the sentiments of anybody else watching from afar. Like, this is one of those times where a lot of times I've said this before about national media. And it's not anybody's fault in national media. It's awfully hard from a distance. What will happen is a lot of times people have a perception of a program, but if they're tasked with covering all of the programs, they really can't dig deep. They really can't dig into the weeds. They might have a source at their various spots, and they'll call in those favors to ask guys, hey, what are you seeing? You know, what it's like on the ground? What's the program? What's the feel for the program right now? But it's hard for those guys. I say this about color analysts and play-by-play guys. They get shipped all over the country a lot of times, unless they're very specific to a conference. And they just have a cursory idea or surface level understanding of what a program is or a team is or a coach is. And you can't expect them to really know much more than that, because next week they're going to be in a different part of the country doing a different game with different 2 teams. And then the following week it's different after that. And that's where local media is helpful, because you get a sense of the on the ground guys giving you an idea of what's happening. But we have all been ushered into a new era of college football where unlimited free agency is a very real thing, and trying to get a handle on what a team is or is not in any given year is going to be that much more difficult. We all learned firsthand last year. And I think we saw not just Florida State's program. Now, Florida State's program overshadowed some of the more extreme results around the country because ours was the biggest outlier. You know, Florida State having a 12-0 regular season and following up by 2-10 was by far and away the greatest example of how different college football can be now from yesteryear. I would argue that Michigan losing 5 games a year after winning a national championship is a pretty extreme drop-off. But because they won their last 2 games and because other schools were doing much, much worse in the wake of successes, it kind of overshadowed that. Much the way that you would say the success of an Indiana program, just like that, is a very modern phenomenon. The ability to bring in 15 to 25 players from your previous stop who understand your system and can hit the ground running, greatly aided along with a very comfortable schedule. The ability for Indiana to turn that thing around and win like they did. We'll see what they do next year. Betting odds suggest they won't come close to 11 wins. But this is the era of college football we're now in, where if you bring in 20 new players, 30, God forbid, 40 new players, you're dealing with volatile outcomes. Some of them are good. Some of them are bad. And volatility is good in the gambling market of golf. It's not good for consistency within a program. And so knowing that you were an annual 10-win team in years past portends of another 9 to 11 win type season the following year is no longer in your back pocket. There's no longer a knowledge that you can fall back on that you feel comfortable espousing about a program. So you win 12 and you buckle up and you hold on to your butts and hope you don't go crashing into the side of a mountain the following year. And if you lose 10, you buckle up and say, who knows, we might win 10 this year. None of that was possible in college football yesteryear. So what this team will be, I have no idea. And I don't think too many people do. We all, as I say, have an opinion on this. But when Mike expressed today and was talking about, in fact, I specifically looked into this here. What was it, 40? Did he say 40?
Yeah, 40 plus 10 in the summer.
Close to 40 newcomers. And he talked about, what a big, that's a big number. It's a huge number. And the need he felt to connect and to make sure everybody meshed and got comfortable and could get the most out of these opportunities, as he put it. I couldn't get past 40. I know what he's talking about. It's 30 now, 10 more in the summer, thereabouts. 40 is a lot, Tom. That is a lot. It may work out. It absolutely may work out. And you can absolutely argue that if you go 2-10, blow that bitch up and bring 40 to 50 in, that's fine with me, because what you had last year went 2-10. You can also say that's too volatile. You got to get away from having to bring in 30 and 40 new people every year. At some point, you're going to ride this rather unstable wave until you can get a base that is consistent enough year over year in recruiting the high school ranks as to not have to go out and bring in 40 new players.
Well, but you've got instability. Well, sorry, not instability. I suppose that's the right term, but I would rather say, because it's got a negative connotation, you got variables on top of variables in the situation. The house settlement has the number at around 105. I think it might be right on 105 players in your roster. The way that Mike was describing it, you're looking at almost half turnover. Half of the 105, more than the old school 85 turnover. The other variable would be the coaching staff. What percentage of your 11 used to be the counting number, but what percentage of your on-field staff has turned over as well? That's in excess of 50%. So to your point, when you're trying to assess very clinically what Florida State is capable of doing, you're looking at upwards of 17, 18 new starters on offense and defense combined. Plus, you're looking at over 50% of your coaching staff, your coaching roster turned over, with both coordinators now being new and in the fold. So you've got variables on top of variables here when you're trying to assess what the hell Florida State is. And if I was outside the market and I was trying to play a hunch on a Florida State future, I would stop after reading those little bullet points. Who knows? Now, that means that they're going to be fascinating to watch, but I'm certainly not going to play them from a gambling standpoint. Not unless I see something early on against Alabama where I say, ooh, they figured some things out. I might be able to get a good market on them the next couple of weeks. But before the season starts, holy cow, there's so much that that's a lot of planes to land at the same time.
Well, the volatility either way is going to be fascinating to gauge, Tom. I would argue that where you could really get good money on Florida State to have a great season is if, in fact, they lose game one decisively. Because I wouldn't read too much into that result, but people will on the heels of 2-10. If they lose game one 34-17, people are going to think, well, Florida State still sucks. And that may not be true at all. They may be vastly improved and well on their way to an 8-win, 9-win season. And you could pounce on it right after that game and get incredible odds, incredible plus odds.
Well, that's where watching the drives matters.
That's exactly right. That's where watching the game is going to matter. Because I think that they could very well. Now, who knows? We'll see what Alabama is, breaking a new quarterback, all those things, right? But, if you're just going by the recruiting rankings over the last dozen years, I mean, Alabama has year over year over year over year over year out-recruited Florida State. Now, that's me being facetious and excessive. Obviously, it doesn't matter that they out-recruited Florida State 12 years ago, but you get the drift. It hasn't been close in recruiting. So they have stockpiled talent and can endure, preseason injuries in camp in a way that Florida State can't. Knock on wood that it doesn't happen. Don't know. It is the first game, so it's not as if it's the seventh game. So that advantage is not as clear cut. But to me, I think that there's a reason Alabama is favored the way they are. You are implementing a brand new offense and a brand new defense. I do think there will be some bumps in the road, but I also don't think that that's necessarily going to tell you anything about what Florida State's going to be by week 4 when they go to Virginia.
Well, I think the line in and of itself speaks to the uncertainty, because if you were just going off of last year's results, rosters, and, indicators for data, you'd say that this should be a 13-point spread, a 15-point spread, a 17-point spread, but it's just over a touchdown right now. So that tells me that even the sharps are going, I'm not so sure.
Well, they watched Alabama and Oklahoma.
Yeah, right. And that was their own volatility, even though they had a nice record at the end of the year, wins and losses, one that we would have traded with.
Well, there weren't too many we would have traded.
They're capable of laying an egg now. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're saying you lost by 4 touchdowns to a 6-loss Oklahoma team. Sure.
Right. So there is, in game 1, there's a lot of potential outcomes. The question is, and you talked about this, Mike Norvell said today that he wanted to spend more time individually with the players. How do I, as Mike Norvell, not get caught unawares? How do I not have a surprised moment on the sideline in Dublin or at home in week 2, the clip that we play all the time? How do I never live in that place walking the sidelines again where I don't know what hit me? And clearly spending more time individually with the players is what he's trying to free up his schedule to do. What will they change in practice? That's one thing that we can't document with our own eyes, but we'll be mining for those details.
Well, yeah, and I'm glad you brought this up, because that was my takeaway early on, was that Mike really wants to make sure that he's connected to and in touch with every player on this team in a way that he couldn't be when he had all of the other responsibilities. I think if there's something that he laments, and I imagine there was a lot, he talked at length many times over now about the need to evaluate thoroughly every aspect of this program, as one would hope after that kind of year. That's the right approach. I think the exact quote was, evaluation is the biggest determining factor for success. He said that today. So he evaluated a lot of things. He's already made a lot of changes to his staff, availability, whatever it might be. We've talked about that already. But he mentioned more than once connection with players, meeting them where they're at. You can say that's an ominous phrasing if you'd like. I get it. I get the concern for that.
Yellow alert phrasing for me, not red alert. Yeah. I was like, ooh, okay.
But the city, I think he's telling you that he knows there was a disconnect, clearly a disconnect last year between he and his players. That what he thought to be true was not, where he thought they were at was inaccurate. And then the inability to reach them to stem the tide of these failures and future failures left him desperate to change going into this season any of those dynamics, which, by the way, brother, I would feel that way too, because there's no worse feeling than being completely in limbo or to have no ability to change current circumstances when a disaster is upon you. There's no worse feeling. That's in your own life. That's in this world of college football as well.
It can happen, and coaches, it has happened to coaches where they assume that you were someplace that you weren't. So 14 years ago now, this fall, crazy that time flies that much, losing to Wake Forest off a bye. Remember that game? You remember it well.
Yes, I do.
You interviewed Jimbo Fisher that Sunday night into that Monday. And I remember you asked him with the preface, I thought we were beyond this, coach. I thought we were past this type of loss.
He said, I thought they were too, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's important. And Jimbo didn't often give that kind of transparency, but he said, I thought we were too. So it tells you that a coach at the head of a program such as this can miscalculate of where he thinks the guys are. And that speaks to a disconnect of, I thought that I didn't need to worry about these little things. I think that's the lesson Mike learned on a much grander scale. wasn't losing to Wake off a bye. It was losing to everybody with a pulse.
Anybody.
All
of them.
Right. And so meeting them where they are could be, I thought that that the program had built to a place that we don't need to worry about these little things. That just comes with the territory of being a Florida State. And he learned last year that you probably need to dig deeper and make sure that these little markers are being met.
In an era of professionalism that has come to the amateur game, I think it's going to be of vital importance that there is a connectivity between a coach and player to fill in the gap between the business of the sport and then also the joy that comes with playing organized sports and athletics for one another. I don't think that it can be a professional transaction at all times. I think you're going to have to, the programs that will remain special and continue to forge an ability to keep players around. I think the most enviable aspect of what Ohio State did, and I will grant you they had the highest paid roster in the game and it won. Yes, you've got to go out and bring in special players. They brought in the most special wide receiver in the country and he changed games. There's no ignoring that. But a whole bunch of guys from the previous year's team that had the ability to go pro and make a lot of money made a pact to come back if it was at all competitive, right? Like if they weren't costing themselves $20 million, they were going to come back. And a lot of that had to do with a love for one another and a love for what they were collectively, right? Now, again, money's a big part of that. I'm not naive. You're not going to come back for nothing. You're not going to just say, oh, well, I really love my right guard and I'm a right tackle and I'd love to play next to him again next year. And these NFL millions be damned. No, you're not. But all things being equal, might you lean towards coming back because you guys had a pact to achieve something together and you think you're close? You might. Fostering that is really difficult. It's especially difficult if you have no connectivity whatsoever. And I think Mike felt like at some point last year that was his relationship to those players. Not all, but clearly some. He couldn't get through to them. There was no leadership.
Or he thinks that I had opportunities that I should have taken advantage of to ensure that I was connected to them. I think it can go either way. That, yeah, these kids didn't want to connect, or, oh, I remember back in this week in June when there was an answer I thought that's strange, but I'm sure he's fine. No, I need to go
He wasn't fine. We go follow up on that.
I need to go follow up and see if he's all right. I think that's what he's trying to do with his time is free up moments to allow for that.
I just think that would be so much more fun to coach that way. Listen,
on a person-to-person level?
Yeah, man, I would love, and then see how you make that mesh with the greater segment group or team, whatever you look. To me, that would be so much more fun.
Yeah, let my coordinators worry about 11 on 11, and I'll worry about one-on-one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be so much more fun because I think individually we can all connect. I mean, we talk about the groups part of this, right? It can be very difficult, right? Yeah, you sit across from somebody, even somebody with disparate beliefs, and I have that happen to me all the time with people that I consider dear friends. We can connect and have a conversation like reasonable people. You start putting us into mass groups and it becomes hell. And so I think as a coach, you would really love the idea of let me talk to so-and-so, my quarterback, my running back, my starting left tackle, my middle linebacker, my safety who's incredulous when I watch him on game film and he's yelling at guys where to go and they won't listen. I need to sit down and talk to him about this whole process, right? So that to me would be a much more fun and engaging way to coach. That's why at the lower levels, you get that opportunity. Like if you coach in high school or even earlier than that, you really do connect. You have far fewer things to worry about, far fewer people to worry about. You can connect with everybody in that way.
In a way, that's what Gus is getting to. Even though he's going to be coaching a group, he doesn't have to worry about the defensive side of the ball. He doesn't have to worry about levels and levels of recruiting and transfers.
Said it today.
Right. Now I got to go make these Zoom calls to these kids and they need to come to my office when they're recruited. But yeah, I don't have to think about 3 moves down the line. And I can just think about, all right, here are the kids in my meeting room. Here we go. We're going to line it up. We're going to run it up the middle and we're going to throw it deep. That's it.
Tony White said to me that Gus Malzahn wants to run the ball down your throat.
Yeah.
And I asked him a question about the physicality of practice. I did ask it, guys. And he said, look, the head coach is going to dictate what we do at practice. It's Mike Norvell's team. I do feel comfortable knowing that Mike has been humble enough so far to tell me that if I think that there's a need to change this, or this, he's going to allow me to do it for my unit. So that was a great answer, I thought. I thought that was an interesting insight. From there, though, he said, look, some of this may be dictated by the style of play that Gus wants to implement.
Right.
And so we may not have a choice but to have more physical practices. He's like, I wasn't here last year. I don't know what they did. But what I'm saying is that you can't not be physical if you're facing, as a defense, an offense that wants to run the ball down your throat at tempo every day. You're going to have to be physical. So maybe they'll get their wish, and I'll get mine, even though I won't be able to see it, solely based on the premise of what they're running.
It's possible. I tried to ask Gus in a roundabout way that question today. I got to do that interview, and he's very practiced in saying nothing, and you can tell that when he walks into the room with media, he knows that he doesn't want to give him anything. And I did ask him about the physicality of practice in this sense. How can you assess who can run your offense? How can you, as Gus Malzahn, assess who's tough enough to run the football down somebody's throat in your offense when you don't go to the ground as often in this era of
And he didn't
football?
give you much of an answer, I bet.
No, he said that's what the scrimmages are for. But I find that interesting because there is no grand reveal of a Bloody Tuesday today. We didn't get that. So if you were hoping, I didn't know if it was going to happen, but if you were hoping that there was a grand reveal that there's going to be a full contact day of the week in camp, in addition to the scrimmages that they have, that did not come today. And Gus didn't give me any indication. Unless they're adding scrimmages to spring camp, it looks like it's going to be the same in terms of the physical intensity of thud versus going to the ground, which is interesting, and we'll see.
Yeah, what we won't see is the problem. We will not see.
Those who do will tell us.
Yeah, I would think. Yeah, no, that information will get out. I am curious. I don't think you can play the way he wants to play without it being more physical.
I was wondering if he'd say, well, I mean, come on now. We're going to run. I was hoping for a little something, but he said, well, that's what scrimmages are for. And that's plenty. All right, man, I hear you.
My friends at T-Spark Enterprises, not only do they have commercial and residential roofing covered for you, but they also help with home remodeling, additions, and businesses that need updates or build-outs even. So check out their website for all the construction services that they do provide. It's good to have them back on board with us. Give T-Spark a call today, 850-766-1340. If you'd like to just check out the website to learn more about your next roofing construction project, go to tsparkconstruction.com. That's tsparkconstruction.com.
Hi, Chris Kraft for Kraft Nissan. Everyday customers of Kraft Nissan are surprised how much less Nissan's cost than the car they're driving. So did you know that Nissan has 6 2025 models you can buy, all under $30,000? Start with the least expensive new car in America, under $20,000, the Nissan Versa. Car and Driver ranked Versa #1 in the subcompact car category. The redesigned Nissan Kicks is under $22,000 with more safety features than cars costing 3 times as much. And the hot-selling Sentra has a higher consumer rating than Corolla. That's Real People Reviews, and you can get Sentra for around $22,000 as well. For an affordable EV, an online review stated if you test drive Nissan Leaf and Toyota Prius, you'll definitely drive home the Leaf. Wonder why you see so many Rogues driving all around Tallahassee? In JD Power Test, Rogue beats RAV4 in safety, driving assistance, infotainment, technology, and comfort. 6 vehicles under $30,000. That's why if your car doesn't have a Kraft tag on it, you paid too much. Way too much. Kraft Nissan, Tallahassee.
When I get home from work, I'm ready to relax. So I call Swain Pools and Spas and put that pool in the back. I call Swain Pools and Spas. Now I'm soaking up and run when I want to.
Truckloads of new and used Caldera and Hot Spring Spas are available now at Swain Pools and Spas. Don't wait. Get to Swain Pools and browse the best inventory to find the spa of your dreams. These won't last long, so come see us today. Just look for the huge sign on Tharp Street or call 386-7113 for Swain Pools and Spas.
I know what you're thinking right now. Where can I find a place to get my car fixed and also check out some awesome new hot tubs and spas while I wait? Well, you're in luck. Because when you bring your car or truck in to get serviced at Tallahassee Car Care, it's under the same roof as Swain Pools and Spas for tires, brakes, batteries, tune-ups, oil changes, and all the service you need to get back on the road. Choose the certified technicians at Tallahassee Car Care. Drop by our shop on Tharp Street or visit online at TallahasseeCarCare.com.
Tired of spending money on bug spray and inhaling all those fumes every time you want to go outside? Treat your yard so you can stop spraying your kids.
Paul's Termite and Pest Control has a solution to this persistent problem. Paul's has a program which seeks the grounds, flower bed, and shrubs. Paul's controls pesky mosquitoes year-round, which means you can take back control of your yard. Not only are mosquitoes a physical irritation, they also pose a potential health risk to people and pets. With Paul's targeted techniques, you can rest assured that your yard will be protected and your afternoons will stay fun.
Take back your yard. Don't let mosquitoes interrupt the fun. For more information, go to callpauls.com. For the elimination of termites or any other pest,
And a greener lawn, too.
call Pauls. We'll get them all.
Paul's can help eliminate fire ants from your lawn, too. We'll help you take your yard back.
While retinitis pigmentosa takes Mark's vision, his family gives him hope, whether at the family business or at home with his wife and sons. He knows he's not fighting alone. For 50 years, the Foundation Fighting Blindness has funded research into treatments and cures for blinding retinal diseases, providing hope to people with vision loss. And for Mark, winning the fight means being there for his family. The Foundation Fighting Blindness. Together, we're winning. Help us end blinding diseases at fightingblindness.org.
Things are just better when you switch to Cricket. The sun shines a little brighter. Happy music starts randomly playing. Best of all, you can get iPhone 13 for just $29.99 with the ultra bright Super Retina display and up to 19 hours of video playback, all on Cricket's super fast 5G network. See, isn't that better? Smile, you're on Cricket.
Requires new account imported on $60 plan. First service charge and tax to with sale. $25 activation fee. Terms and restrictions apply. Cricket 5G is not available everywhere. See store for details.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
I saw a question in here from Hawaii. I was like, well, there was no practice. But I realized that I'm coming in late to all these things, to whatever discussions there were. Before I glanced over at the larger discussion, I suppose there, and also, yeah, that is not something that we're going to be able to answer. I did want to reiterate how excited I am about the news that I kind of got over the weekend regarding Loucks and his efforts to fundraise and get some more people on board, and that is something that's happening. That is the good news. That is happening right before our eyes.
Good. These are the
money's raised.
Well, money's raised when you have the new coach in the room feel that you cannot duplicate. You get it once. And so those first meetings, in a sense, you have your media availability, which matters, but it's hard to lose the opening press conference.
True.
But then you're immediately under pressure, because you're making decisions about your staff. Yes, that's probably more fun than anything else. Then you got to meet the money people, and you need money right away. You've got to nail that. I'm sure whatever talking points he had ready on index cards in his head, pacing back and forth, he went over those things time and time and time again, because you're the new guy only once. And after that first year, you're either on the rise or I don't know. Maybe next year, Luke. Come back to me next year. That first year, you can sell the hope. So good for him. Glad to hear things are rolling.
Do we want to do one of our new favorite segments to do, which is who went above and beyond? Thanks to our friends at Above and Beyond Vacation Rentals. Soon we may have to have a theme song for this, Tom, but or some sort of maybe just the sound of I don't know, a pelican.
Yeah, pelican and waves.
Ideal. Yeah, something along those lines.
Pelican and waves.
Or a seagull or whatever the hell you want to do. Yeah.
Yeah, seagulls.
Seagulls, you can do that. I like pelicans more than I like seagulls.
I like to look at pelicans. I don't know what they sound like relative to seagulls. Now that
they're low key compared to a seagull.
Right.
One flew into my stepdad's windshield while he was crossing the Skyway about a month ago. So you know that pelican, it sucked.
Jeez.
He made a miscalculation.
If birds were tobacco, the pelican would be the pipe.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Not just the shape of the
dignified,
beak, but
interesting.
There's dignity to the pelican. Yes. The pelican's got a story. The seagull's just hungry.
I was explaining to my son over the weekend that my stepdad, who's an attorney, smoked a pipe for 40 plus years, and it smelled exquisite. He used to go into his den to do prep work long before we had, computers, and he would write out everything longhand on his yellow notepad, and he would dictate, do all these things, and he would smoke that pipe, and the whole house smelled incredible. And I would go with him back then to the Albertsons when he'd go re-up on the tobacco, and I'd like, yes, I love that pouch. I would just stick my face in it. It was the best.
I think it was the Dillard's side of Countryside Mall growing up. There was a little pipe tobacco shop in the corner, second story in the corner, and it was Mr. D's pipe tobacco shop.
Damn right, Mr. D.
But you were walking into the Dillard's, and that's all you would see. He knew what he was doing.
The best.
He would just send that scent all the way out into the mall.
Remember Smoking Snuff? Those
I never did.
That was in the mall. It was Smoking Snuff. Above and Beyond Player of the Week, Coach of the Week. Who went above and beyond? That's what we're doing these days. I'll tell you more about them momentarily. You know what? Tough Love Cameron came through. I'm so excited for him. I'm not picking him, but Jackson West finally did something. First time this year.
You're not picking him, though? That's good, though. He gets an honorable above and beyond mention.
Yeah, he gets an honorable mention.
He went above, but not beyond.
Well, I mean, first of all, if he'd have just garnered a hit this weekend, it would have been above and beyond anything he'd been doing. But, hey, a couple of doubles thrown in there, hit the ball hard. I was Tough Love Cameron came through. I'm very pleased to see that it's still there. The magic's still there. Way to go, Jackson. Keep hitting the ball. That occasional single ain't getting it done. Let's go.
From Billy Strode to Jackson West.
Yeah.
There's a long line of the fraternity of Tough Love Cameron, specifically in baseball. There's been a lot of it.
Well, let me tell you something. I always, and it's nothing but love. This isn't personal in any way. It may sound like it, but tough love is just that. You can't be in here half-stepping. You got to say what it is. Your slugging percentage is 232. I'm going to call you out. That's ass. So let's get this moving. And he did. Less ass now. Let's see if we can continue to move forward. But I'm going to continue to cite the year that both Adam Farrow and Alex Lodice are having. Alex Lodice is going to be my guy.
Drew Farrow, yeah.
What did I Adam. Well, I covered his father way back. It's ridiculous. Actually, he was in school at the same time I was in school. But Lodice, every time I look up, he's coming through with men on base. He's just a stud. He's hitting over 450. It's just been fun to watch this guy. Lodice is my guy.
Okay. This is where Rory McIlroy gets his flowers. Thank you, Rory. Really appreciate it. Had him in a winner-take-all pool. And Rory, who has disappointed me many, many times. I think we've all believed in Rory breaking through and winning majors. Now, he's won the Players twice the last however many years, 5 years. But we all believe in him once, twice, 3 times over the last 12 years of majorless golf. And he fails. But in this case, he did not fail. And even though he tried to miss that putt on the 72nd hole yesterday and lip it out to the right, it lipped in. And maybe for Rory, that is a moment that allows him to settle the hell down. Because that was not a hard putt. But he made the putt. And then today, he was in control, and he closed like a champ. So thank you, Rory McIlroy. You went above and beyond, because now the pool that I'm in, I can just play for the next couple of years for free because of this winning. So thank you, Rory. Appreciate you.
So Tom wins money, and suddenly that's the above and beyond player.
That's an honest above and beyond.
It is.
And it's also, yes, he now is the 4th guy in history to win multiple majors and multiple players. So that's for legacy hunting. That's a tremendous accomplishment.
Yeah. If he wins, I mean, look, he's got 4 majors already. Now got 28 wins, 2 players. Been great in the Ryder Cup. He's cemented. He's pretty well cemented. Let him fool around and get another major or 2. And God forbid it happens to be the Masters. because then he's in a really elite club, and we're done there.
I think if he wins the Masters, he'll win 11 majors in his career.
You're serious?
I'm not
well,
kidding.
it would,
At
it
that
would
point,
lift the. I mean, there's no burden of anything anymore.
No.
I will also say, and Jack has admitted this, and I'm glad that he does. You know that when Jack won the Grand Slam, meaning career Grand Slam, he said that there wasn't a single question asked that week going into it, that it wasn't a thing.
It wasn't a thing.
That nobody talked about it. It was never a thing.
Well, there was a Western Open that was considered a major at the time.
Right.
And yeah, the major definition was different.
But also just nobody cared. It wasn't that big a deal. And the modern player now, if they get anywhere close, if they're within 2, that's all they hear. God forbid 1, then you're just beat over the head with it every time you arrive at whatever major that you haven't won is. We've seen it with Jordan and we've seen it with Rory. You can't escape it. It's just the mountain that is on your back. Just different, a little bit tougher. But I'd love to see him do it. And I'm happy for you.
Yeah,
winning money on golf is fun.
It is.
I won a little money on golf this week with my 5-man. I didn't win a lot of money on my other pool, but I am going to win the session. So that's all that matters. I'm going to win the session.
I was offered a chance to chop the pot, but I decided not to.
No, because you had the better player.
Which means I went above and beyond with my confidence.
You can too. It is a Florida State family that owns this business that we've been raving about after having gone down and seen the properties. Over 30 properties, 18 of which have a pool to go with the ocean views in many of them. Man, everything from beach cottages to quaint little hotels to upscale luxury condos like the one Tom and I stayed at. Most importantly, listen, you got all of these properties, downtown Dunedin, Palm Harbor, Clearwater Beach, you name it. No VRBO fees, no Airbnb middleman fees, none of it. Go directly through them. Right now, use the launch special code JCS for 5% off. They're booked up through March, good to go for every month after, but they won't be for long. So go to the website, book today, planning to get together with friends, family over the summer, something like that. You want a beach cottage, you want it to be reasonable, you want to save a bunch of money, bam. AboveandBeyondVR.com. That's AboveandBeyondVR.com, or give them a call or text today at 727-253-5995. That's 727-253-5995.
Your local news now.
Images of a flattened community center in Pebble City. Toppled trees and shredded roofs are coming out of Mitchell County after a tornado was reported in the area around 6:30 a.m. Sunday. Radar showed a tornado debris signature about 7 miles west of Doe Run, Georgia. Local officials on the ground reported around 7 a.m. that some buildings were damaged with trees and power lines down across Georgia Highway 37 and Sales City Road in eastern Mitchell County, which is near the area where the tornado was reported. A federal judge in Tallahassee on Friday denied a request to block Florida's ban on social media for young teens. The social media law, which was supposed to take effect January 1st, would block anyone under 16 from using some social media, but would allow 14 and 15-year-olds to use the online services with the parents' permission. Companies that violate the law could be fined up to $50,000 per violation. This is Rachel and A with your Real Talk 93.3 local news update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
Here's your Paul's Termite and Pest Control Tallahassee weather report.
Sunny start to the weekend, cooler warming up midweek with highs in the mid to upper 70s. Rain chances returning late Wednesday into early Thursday. Then sunshine returns along with cooler temperatures. Tonight clear, low near 40. Tuesday sunny, high of 78, low of 45. Wednesday sunny, high of 79. Rain chances going up late Wednesday into early Thursday. From Real Talk 93.3, this is Danielle Kelly.
For the elimination of termites, pests, and for a greener lawn too, call Paul's. They'll get them all.
Did you know that the survivability of a metal roof far exceeds that of a traditional shingle roof? At Metal Roofing Sales of Tallahassee, we have new state-of-the-art roll formers that produce the highest quality Versa panel, PBR panel, and standing seam options. And we will guarantee to match or beat any local competitor's pricing. We're a family-owned business, ready to offer you the best sales and installation service in the area. And don't forget about our veterans and first responders discounts. Call Metal Roofing Sales today, 850-536-9123, or visit us online at metalroofing.net.
What's that sound? That's the sound of Downy Unstoppable scent beads going into your washing machine and giving your clothes freshness that lasts all day long. There it is again. It's like music to your ears, or more like music to your nose. That freshness is irresistible. Let's get a Downy Unstoppables bottle shake. And now a sniff solo. Nice. With Downy Unstoppables, you just toss, wash, wow, for all-day freshness.
You still thinking job change in the new year? Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy. IT? Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI. That's what I did. Really? How? Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up. Sweet. Are classes online or on campus? Both. Wow, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Man, I know it has everything in the world to do with activation, Tom, and what they can do, the money that they can make in Japan, but it's so silly to me that these games count. Tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. I mean, we'll be watching. I'll be up. I'd be pissed in a weird way if I were a Dodgers or Cubs fan, but I mean, they're going to get everything that they want here as far as having, starting pitching, 2 Japanese starters. That's fantastic for them. For the first time, they're able to do that.
Both starting pitchers?
Mm-hmm.
It's time for, how you say, with the pitching, probables?
Won't that be fun? Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Shota Imanaga. Got it. Whew.
Imanaga's going tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah.
Or in the morning, I should say.
In the morning. But, listen, that market is massive to Major League Baseball, much the way that China became massive to the NBA. And if you have a superstar of an international variety, utilizing that to expand your marketing opportunities in baseball, you're absolutely going to do. It's the right thing. You want a world-renowned athlete on a large stage in which you can, again, monetize, and they will. So having a superstar like Ohtani meant that this was always going to happen. This was going to be the opportunity they were looking for. Remember, in the past, these were exhibition games, but now you have that chance.
I had my arm twisted last week, and I joined a fantasy baseball league for the first time in 10 years, 11 years.
Whoa.
Well, I like it because it's a 1970s style fantasy baseball league in the sense that it's just the basics. Average, home run, RBI, stolen bases.
Yeah, things that...
not even holds, man. Wins, strikeouts, saves.
So it's not It's not like the more advanced fantasy leagues that really allowed you to dive deep into who was what. This is not that.
I would have said no if it was, because you have to do it right. Instead, this is just the basics. Look at the back of the old baseball card and go pick some players. Have some fun. Kind of excited about it. And so I've got a few Dodgers, and I think I might have a Cub or two to watch tomorrow morning. So there you go.
It's just awkward. I mean, because these games do count, and it's in the middle of spring training. These guys will come back from these games that do count and play more spring training games. It's just weird. It is weird. Opening day, the way that I view opening day, and this is not that. And I'm still going to watch, and, I love baseball, so we're in, and I think it's going to be entertaining. But I miss the days where baseball owned opening day. It wasn't parsed. It wasn't staggered. It was, on Monday, we're going to have opening day beginning at noon in Cincinnati, and we'll go from here, and we would all roll over either to my house or the corner pocket, and we would do it up. Now, we're still going to do that. That day will happen. It's just different than it used to be.
Well, yeah, and it used to be that Cincinnati was the place.
Yeah, it's where you started things, yeah.
That's where, if you played the Reds, you were going to play early, 12:35. I remember some years, I felt like it was 11:45 or 12:05 p.m. that they would start in Cincinnati. But it's flexed so much now towards the 4 o'clock Eastern window. I mean, last year, the year before, there's a game or two at 105 or 110. Like, what the hell, man? It's 1 o'clock. Let's do this.
Yeah, let's have them all lined up and get in front of a Vegas wall and make this thing happen. It was glorious. I miss those days as well. But we'll make the most of it with the hot dogs and the apple pie and the tall, cold Budweisers. What are you upset by on there?
Just MLB.com's website is stupid. I Googled it, and I clicked on opening day schedule, and it took me to today. But the link said the opening day schedule. Anyhow, the first game of the day on MLB opening day is at 3 o'clock this year.
Yeah.
Milwaukee at the Yankees. Ugh.
Not what we do.
Ira's Baltimore Orioles, who he can watch more of over the next month because he doesn't have to go to practice. Play at the Blue Jays at 3:07 p.m. And then the rest of them are in the 4 o'clock hour. We play
the Marlins again.
4:10 p.m.
Whose ass we swept in 4 games to start the year a season ago. A little 4-0 for that ass.
We get the Stros at 4:05. Where are the Braves at?
Yeah, somebody's got their...
Oh, they play at San Diego, but also at 4:10.
Well, at least that's in San Diego. You can understand why that's at 4:10.
Yes, that's more reasonable for the people out west.
Yeah, that is more reasonable. But the comfort of nightly signing off here on this show, going through, doing probables, having the sounder, going through the names again, having fun as we do, it is nearly upon us. And baseball seasons are long, and I'm forever grateful because of it. The consistency.
At least, because I feel like when we've done these opening day events, one of our teams would play at 1 o'clock and then the other at 4. And so we want to get together and enjoy the day.
Yeah.
It's a lot to ask for 6 or 7 hours together at a bar. I mean, that could be very dangerous.
Just try to keep it together is tough.
Well, and or irresponsible for your family. You know, you got a family to report to. But since we're all basically everybody that matters, sorry, Ira. I mean, you get an hour early head start, but we're all at 4 o'clock. 1, 2, 3. About 10 games start at 4 o'clock on opening day. Okay. All right. At least we're all together and the wall will be filled, the Vegas wall.
There's something special about that day. There's also something special about that first week when you go home. And, you know, I've had the MLB package for years and years and years. As soon as they get rid of these blackouts, it's going to be great. But to be able to flip one by one, or to lay your head on that pillow, with a good matchup on the West Coast. You're not overly concerned about whether or not you stay up to see, but to let it drift you to sleep. The sounds of bat to ball, ball to mitt, the organ, hopefully a really good play-by-play announcer who lets it breathe. You're all set. It's glorious. And think about it. How we're marrying that with the soon-to-be NHL playoffs, which takes 6 months to finish.
Yes, it does. 6 glorious months of blood.
It is brutality. But my point is, as a sports fan, with March Madness upon us, the brackets before us, Major League Baseball soon to be starting, the NHL playoffs soon to be starting, the Masters right around the corner. Buddy.
I've got even more good news for you. You play, and you did this last year, but we didn't. Your team, my team.
Back to back.
That's right. We play Friday. There's not a one-gamer, and then you have all this fun, and then you take a day off.
Right.
So if you're a Braves fan, if you're me, Mets, you, Pirates, Orioles, most teams do play that next day. Wonderful.
I one time bitched about baseball scheduling and then got shown how difficult it is, and I kind of backed off on my bitching. I will still bitch about the NHL doing the, hey, everybody in the league plays tonight, tomorrow, 1 game. Good luck to you. Like, what are we doing? Why do we do that?
We're taking a break.
Stop doing that. Spread it out a little bit. Stagger this thing. I got 4 tonight, 5 tomorrow, 6 the next day. Let's go.
I'm telling you, I'm looking at this. The Friday game that we have opening week, we play Houston at 8:10 p.m. Eastern. Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. That's going to be a nice, humble abode on a Friday night. Maybe some cocktails. You're welcome. You're welcome to come over. You guys start at 7 o'clock against the Fish.
West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey has filed a lawsuit. Says that West Virginia got bent over in favor of North Carolina, and he's right. And certainly it's not a good look when the head of the committee is North Carolina's AD.
Bend over.
Good God, man. I mean, that is a toughie. You know, I think, and I've heard people make this argument, like, okay, say you desperately want a 14th team from the SEC in, and you go, we got to have 14. Put Texas in. Well, when you have the argument about putting Texas in, and you can have an argument that says they've lost 15 times, they were 6-12 in their league, so it's cool that you're in a tough league, but you won 6 games. You probably shouldn't make it in. You have the 287th ranked non-conference schedule. Not sure you should get in, but the counter would be, wait a minute now, Texas has 7 quad 1 wins. Oh, all right, I'll hear that. I'll hear the 7 quad 1 wins. That's a lot of quad 1 wins.
So was every SEC win a quad 1, and then they
they only had 6 of those.
Right. So then 1 out of conference.
Yeah. So there you go. But now you would do the thing where you'd say, you need not worry about winning games if your schedule is hard enough. See North Carolina, who didn't win games and went 1-14 in quad 1 games. Good God, man. I mean, so just schedule a bunch of really difficult games. It doesn't matter if you win them. You just go, well, listen, we played a lot of good teams. Yes, and you lost to them every time.
Yes, North Carolina, whose motto is that we exist is all that matters.
It is something to behold, man.
That's the way they live. Just for existing, you get all of these extra things that no one else gets.
Yeah, that is something to behold. That is that. Nonetheless, I will fill it out. We'll have the discussion. I'm a little worried because I think legitimately Florida could win the whole thing. They've largely looked like the best team in the country for much of the year.
I'll take your word for it because that involves seeing. If they've looked like something, that means you've seen them.
You're going to watch.
I would.
You'll watch the NCAA tournament.
I'll watch a little bit this week because there is no MLB and because it's not the players. It's probably the Byron Nelson. No, actually, it's Valspar.
Valspar in Tampa. You'll watch that.
Oh, all right, March Madness, you got some competition
There's
on your hands.
gambling to be done on both accounts, buddy.
Right.
Glorious
go
thing.
above and beyond for me and make me money this week.
Good work out of you. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you listening and watching. You guys have a great Monday evening. We will be back with you tomorrow with Seminole headlines on a Lawn Maintenance Tuesday and the bonus hour. Until then, peace.